If you've been thinking about buying or selling a home in Frisco or Prosper sometime in the coming months, but you're feeling a little bit uncertain about where the market might be heading, then this update is definitely for you. Now, between mortgage rates, talk of a slowing economy, and mixed headlines regarding the housing market, a lot of people right now that I've been talking to are asking the exact same question. Is now a good time to even consider making a move, or should I just wait? Well, in this month's real estate market update, I'm going to walk you through exactly what's happening here in Frisco and Prosper. We're going to go over the latest data right now, looking at buyer demand, inventory levels, pricing trends, and what it all means for you if you're planning on making a move. If we haven't met before, my name is Andrew with the Andrew Smith team, eXp Realty here in Frisco, Texas, and I specialize in helping people navigate the real estate market in order to make the decision that's best for them and their family right here in Frisco and Prosper. And if you're currently trying to decide whether or not now is a good time for you to consider buying or selling, then in the description below, I do have a link to my calendar, and I would invite you to go ahead and schedule a free 30-minute consultation with me where I'd be happy to walk you through what all of these numbers mean regarding your specific situation. Now, before we dive directly into the local market data, the one thing I did want to mention is there's uncertainty out there based on the headlines. You may have seen it, and a lot of the headlines out there, they do more to promote fear than they do actually give us facts. Because when you look at the actual data, much of what we're hearing right now is not exactly the same as what's actually going on. And I don't mean that we don't have headwinds coming our way right now, but if you look at it, most of the leading economists have backed off recession talk. Inflation and unemployment, yes, they're a little bit higher than we would like, but they're not going up. The big jump in inflation that was expected due to the tariffs hasn't happened, and those numbers are generally holding steady. So with that in mind, I just want to point out that a lot of what's going on is different in every locality around the country. It's just some perspective to kind of keep in mind. All right, now with that, let's jump right in and I'll show you what's going on here in Frisco and Prosper. All right, first up today, we're going to take a look at what the pending sales data is telling us. Why pending sales data? Well, right now, these first two things that I'm going to go through are looking at the buy side of the equation. It's giving us an idea of what demand is like in our local market. Now, pending sales is an important one because pending sales represent homes that are under contract. So it kind of gives us an idea of what future sales are going to look like. Now, as you can see right here on this graph, this is going back over the last couple of years. And even though to start out, we are seeing pending sales numbers trend up, I think it's important to point out right here that they are up 0% year over year in both Frisco and Prosper. Why does that matter? Well, it shows us that there is some continued weakness in our local market on the buy side of things. Sales were not great in 2025, and the expectation was that those sales would improve as we go into 2026. The early data right now, even though we did see a brief uptick in activity, this is showing us that there is still some weakness on the buy side, most likely due to that uncertainty. This is going to be an important metric to pay attention to over the coming months to see if we in fact do have a busy spring season. Next up, we're going to look at sales prices. That's the other side of the metric that shows us what's going on with regards to demand as well. Now, year over year, you can see that in Frisco, home prices were up 0.4%, so essentially flat, which is what I've been saying for a few months now. In Prosper, they were actually down 10.8%. So now, before you go, oh my gosh, the Prosper market is crashing, we need to provide just a little bit of perspective to that, because it's not. So right up here, actually hidden behind me on this chart, if I move myself out of the way for just a second there, you can see that right here, I have this showing for all construction types. That means this is looking at new construction and resale. That makes a big difference, and the Prosper market, even more than Frisco, is heavily impacted by new construction. Here's what I mean. If I look at just new construction, you can now see that in Prosper, prices are down 24.6%. 6% year over year in the new construction, whereas in Frisco, they're up 11.4% year over year. If we go ahead and look at just the resale market, now both markets are pretty equal. You can see that the home prices in Prosper are up 4.8% year over year. Prices in Frisco are up 4.2% year over year. So with that in mind, where do you think the best opportunity in the market today is if you're a home buyer? Yeah, new construction homes in Prosper are where the best deals are currently. So the pending sales and the year over year sales price numbers give us a really good idea, an indication of what has happened in the market. But to understand where things may be heading next, or what it looks like is going to be going on here in our local markets, it's important to take a look at some real-time market indicators which show us exactly what's happening with regards to pricing adjustments, the supply of homes, as well as how quickly homes are selling right now. So let's jump in and take a look at that. All right, so first up here, we are looking at inventory. Inventory is nothing more than the supply of homes that is for sale in the given market. Now the green line represents Prosper and the black line Frisco. It is very normal as we enter into the spring for inventory to start to climb rapidly. Spring is the busy season in real estate. It's when most things happen as many families are trying to time things around the school year. Now as you can see, in both Frisco and Prosper, inventory has started to turn up for the year. But one thing to point out on this, you can see that the line in Prosper is actually starting to be a little bit flat. Same thing in Frisco. It started to turn up, and then you can see right here, it's actually started to flatten out. This is really important to pay attention to. This is the normal curve that we see in the spring. Now, as I just showed you, buyer demand year over year right now in terms of pending sales is pretty flat. If we see this supply remain fairly flat, we're basically all just treading water. If we see buyer demand increase and this supply stay low, you are going to see more upward pressure on home prices. Likewise, if we end up seeing buyer demand fall further and this inventory number starts to climb, that will be a sign of weakness in the market with regards to prices, and a good possibility that prices will start to decline in the months ahead. But right now, we're not seeing anything in the leading indicators that says that is what's going to happen. Next up here, we're looking at the percentage of homes listed for sale that have taken a price reduction. Why is this important? Well, it shows us, it's another indicator of buyer demand in the market. If you think about it, if you're a seller and you have your home up for sale and you're getting plenty of activity and there's a lot of buyers coming in and you're getting offers, you don't have a need to reduce your price. If you're not getting that, that's an indication there could be some weakness, or maybe you were a little bit too aggressive on pricing in the first place. So again, black is Frisco, green is Prosper. So you can see price decreases have increased in Prosper. This is looking at all construction types. And price decreases in Frisco, they bottomed out and they're not rapidly going up. They've started to plateau here and move a little bit sideways. That's an indication that there is still some strength in the market, especially when you couple it with the average days on market that we're looking at now. So here you can see in both Frisco and Prosper, the average days on market in both is continuing to fall. It's still higher than it has been. We're still well over 100 days in both markets, about 116 in Frisco and about 104 in Prosper. So that is telling us right there, the fact that days on market is falling is telling us right now that we are seeing more buyer activity and homes are starting to sell a little bit quicker. So when we take a step back, what is all of this data telling us overall? Well, it starts to give us a pretty clear indication of where the market is currently. Inventory, it has increased compared to where we were just a couple of years ago, which means buyers generally have more choice and they've got a little bit more negotiating power than they have had in recent years. At the same point in time though, buyer demand, it hasn't completely disappeared, but it's not running away either. It's not really strengthening, which is why you're seeing home prices stay fairly steady. We're already seeing that homes that are priced correctly and they're presented well are still selling. They're just not selling as fast. Overall, this is a much more balanced market than we have seen in the last few years. Now, if we look specifically from a buyer's perspective, the current market creates opportunities. Where's the absolute best opportunity? As I just showed, when you look at those price decreases and you look at what's going on with regards to new construction, that is where the opportunity lies for buyers right now, especially new construction in Prosper. Now, that doesn't mean that every home and every new home builder is going to have deals, but it generally means that there's a lot more flexibility and you have more choices than you have had in several years. Now, on the opposite side, for sellers, it means that pricing and preparation is more important than ever. Homes that hit the market at the right price and show well are still attracting buyers, as the data is showing. It's really important, though, that you remember this is when more homes come on the market. So if you've been sitting on the market for a while and you haven't made any adjustments, you really have to think that through, because buyers are going to gravitate towards the newest listings first. And ultimately, if you're slow to respond, your sales price will be lower than it would have been had you not kept the price elevated for longer than you probably should have. Now, if you want to be able to keep an eye on all of this data, then I invite you to check out the description below. I have a link to those reports. They're good for any city or zip code in the entire state. You can simply put in the area that you're most interested in and get that market data for you. They'll be sent to you weekly if you want to subscribe, and you can follow the pricing trends, the inventory, the price reductions in the area that you are most interested in. But in closing here today, I mean, the biggest takeaway right now is that while many of the headlines that may make the housing market feel very uncertain, unlike I've said, yes, I acknowledge that there are some headwinds. The fact of the matter is the market here in Frisco and Prosper still remains pretty strong compared to many areas, not only in the country, but in Texas as well. Our market is still moving. It's just operating differently than it did a few years ago. So again, if you're trying to decide whether now is a good time for you to buy or sell, or make a move sometime this year, then I invite you to go ahead and take advantage of that free 30-minute consultation that I offer. Again, the link is in the description, and I'd be happy to talk through your specific situation and help come up with a plan that makes the most sense for you and your family. So thanks so much for watching today, and I will see you in the next video.